Hi, I'm Jed, and this is Cook Culture. So the purpose of this channel, primarily, is to help people transition, or that are transitioning, away from using disposable style cookware that is coated with either a Teflon style or a ceramic or any sort of a non-stick property coating, and transition away from that into something that they can buy once and last forever. And there are some steps and processes that need to be learnt so that the person can be successful, and that's what I try to do here. But I get a lot of people that make comments about kind of that one pan, or that they need a type of pan for a job, or the main issue is like, oh hey, they fixed the problem with non-stick. So from a health perspective. And I just wanted to back up a little bit and put things into context of anything that you may have heard. So hearing things, as in like hearsay, that somebody said that heard from someone and that person heard it from someone else, is a major issue within what I do. So in the straightest possible way that I can be is that quality information about how things work from a perspective of health or for our environment, that information does not come from the industry that makes non-stick cookware. They do not talk about what is healthy. They do not talk about what is good for the environment. So when you've heard about, oh, this is better for you now, this is now healthy, or ceramic is healthy, or whichever, that doesn't come from them. They do not claim that anything is healthier than something else. And the reason for it is that they are trying to protect their business. So when you're making a pan that is going to wear out knowingly, you are creating a business that replicates. So you're going to sell a pan today and you know it's going to wear out within X amount of time, you'll get that customer back. You can repeat that business. And that is beneficial. But when you build a pan that wears out, it is made out of a certain product that is A, harmful to the environment, and B, could have some serious health implications. And that is not positive. So anything that you try to talk about from an industry standpoint of trying to make it sound better than it is only problematic and can get somebody into trouble. So my industry over time has been very secretive around the information. And a lot of the information which we hear is just that. It's hearsay. It's being created by mega industry mouthpieces to create the idea that something could be or may be different than what we think it is. And I'm kind of going on here in kind of half speak because it's a very gray and muddy space. There's no absolutes. You're not going to find a big industry player saying an absolute about how their pan is perfectly safe this way, or it's going to last, for a lifetime, or it's going to do these sort of things. They give some kind of random limited lifetimey sort of guarantees for things that don't always work because it's supposed to be used in an absolutely specific way. If you cook at this exact temperature, then it should last for this amount of time, or nobody really does. So things wear out way faster than they should, and they go into the landfill, then you're buying it again, and that's what they want you to do. So when I was a young guy in this business selling cookware, I sold boatloads of non-stick cookware because that's what people bought. When I started selling cookware in the late 80s, early 90s, there was only non-stick. There was stainless steel, all clads and the like. They were around, but that's not what people consumed. People consumed non-stick cookware, and companies loved it. So companies that bought from companies like DuPont and coated their cookware, and you can buy all different brands with coated cookware even today, go into any major department store and there's shelves and shelves full of it. They love you buying it because you're gonna buy it again, and they know it, right? So that's just gonna go around and around in a circle. And I was in that circle because it was just repeat business. I would sell a pan to somebody, and I always tried to sell the best quality, but I knew in my mind that if somebody spent X dollars on that pan today, they will be back at some point in time because that pan is only gonna last so long. And in 93, I didn't really think much of that. I didn't think of the implications of that. And also, what was critically important is that I was not being told what was in that. So I sold fancy cookware. I sold fancy, expensive nonstick cookware. And the nonstick property was never divulged to me. It took me years of asking specific pointed questions to the executives of the companies that I was buying from. What is the nonstick property? And you'd be amazed, before I actually got to the bottom of it, I'll tell you about it in a sec, what I was told. I was told by one company owner, who mass importer of nonstick cookware, oh, it's water-based cookware. It's like cooking with water. He was talking about Teflon. So I, one day, finally got to the bottom of the fanciest nonstick cookware that we were using, that was reinforced with a very strong metal and had big branding around it that worked so incredibly well because it was all done with this special metal. And I asked the question enough times that finally, good, decent people that worked at this company that weren't going to lie directly to me were like, oh, well, you need to talk to this person, then you need to talk to this person, you need to talk to this person. And I finally got to that person. I got to an engineer that worked for this company, that worked on the coding, that worked on what it was. And I said to him straight point blank, I'm like, what makes your pan nonstick? And this may seem silly that I had to go to great lengths just to ask what made the pan nonstick, and that they just wanted to tell me about what made it stronger than its competitor, but not actually what the nonstick property was. And because they didn't have to, legally, they didn't have to put that anywhere. There was no ingredient list, there was nothing listing of what it was on any of their packaging that was sold all around the world, and it's still sold today by major retailers. I didn't know what it was. So finally, this guy's like, well, it's made out of a special, formula that's, our special formula that, allows it to be nonstick. I'm like, well, that's great. That sounds like Teflon to me. And he's like, oh, no, it's not Teflon. It's definitely not Teflon. I'm like, well, okay, well, what makes it nonstick? Oh, well, it's this formula that's actually being approved by the European government, the European standards, and, we're allowed to sell it to people to consume it, and it's all safe. I'm like, well, what's it made out of? Because, there's some major ingredients in Teflon with these large names that have been proven to be carcinogenic, in larger amounts, of course. But, people, my customers, ask me this. I don't know the answer. I need to know, like, does this have polyfluorocarbons in them? Like, is this the same type of thing in which people are starting to understand that Teflon is made out of? And so he's like, well, here's a document that shows that we're allowed to sell that. And in that document that he showed me on the middle of a trade show floor was exactly the ingredients that were in Teflon. And I pointed that out to him. I'm like, so there's the words that are in your ingredients. Is this not the same compounds as Teflon? And this was a good, decent person who wasn't going to again lie to me in the face. And he was like, yeah, basically it's the same thing. So that took me, a retailer, a fairly large retailer with big buying power, of going into a trade show and driving hard, not the first time I'd done that, to get to an engineer that finally admitted to me that they were using a product that had toxic chemicals in it. And of course, they're gonna say, well, it only has so many, so it's not actually deemed to be toxic and we're allowed to sell it. Could be a fair point. That's the health question. Is it toxic? Is it not? Nobody really knows, right? However, the answer is that this was a type of surface that I know, questionable on health or not, it wears out. And they had talked to me about how this is reinforced, and that it's all about the strength of this metal, and it will last a long time. But the nonstick property dries, and it cracks, and it wears out, and it becomes garbage. And what I learned over time is exactly that. It became garbage. All of it over a certain amount of time became garbage, and nothing that was made, no matter how much the spin happens, can be made for nonstick cookware that will have any sort of longevity. So that's where the nucleus of all of this came from. That I realized that I had, not intentionally people were lying to me. They weren't like, oh great, let's just tell Jed all this bunch of BS and he's gonna buy all this cookware from us and he's just gonna sell it to his customers, that's gonna be great. But for a lot of years it was kind of like that. right? Because the story was made, and we know now for sure that where the chemical was originally made, there was a lot of question around its quality and if it was the right thing for humans to be, exposed to. And that became non-stick cookware, and that became other things that were coated with the same type of non-stick finish. And that went into our kitchens for decades, and that has hurt a lot of people. And so, the health aspect, that is an individual choice, right? Do you want to use non-stick cookware that is questionable? The environmental impact is completely watertight. When you use non-stick cookware, when you buy non-stick cookware, you are buying it to throw it away. You are buying essentially garbage. You're going to use that pan for a certain amount of time, and it's going to go into the garbage fairly shortly thereafter. So I just wanted to make sure that on this channel, I had it well documented. People that do ask those questions, I have somewhere to send them to be like, hey, here's my answer, and those are my answers to those questions. So, if you have any sort of doubt in your mind, like, hey, why hasn't modern science fixed these problems? Why can't we use non-stick cookware and just let it be? It's because there's no motivation. These companies sell massive amounts of non-stick still today, and customers, maybe not you, definitely not me, aren't going to buy them, but lots and lots and lots of people still are. Just blindly buying non-stick. Just like, well, I'll pay $40 for it. It's going to last me, 6 months, a year, 2 years. That's great. I'll just buy another one, and it goes around and around in circles. And so, the purpose of this channel, as I said before, is to help people transition. I also want it to be a point in which people can maybe learn for the first time and be like, wow, great. I learned something today, and maybe I need to figure out how to take a step away from this, because this isn't right for me personally and my family, and definitely not for the planet. So, I have taken this choice as a retailer. We, in 2014, 15, eliminated all non-stick coating, no matter what it is. We don't even sell waffle irons because we can't get them without some sort of a coating on them. And we got rid of everything because we felt it was the right thing to do. It was a big hit to us. It was, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars of sales annually that we got rid of. But we've been slowly building that business back, because we're in business to make money. But we've been building that business back, and we've been building it back in a way that's been brick by brick by brick. And it's been non-stick from cast iron, non-stick from carbon steel. And we've been getting the same results of using pans that people can look after, strip down, re-season, but have forever. And I believe that this is the right way for us as businesses. I don't think that any of the majors are going to change anything. I don't think you can go to a department store or to a big warehouse store or into a hardware store anytime soon and see that sort of change. But I would like to challenge independent retailers. I would like to challenge small mom and pop retailers. Those holdouts are like, well, I have customers that just ask for it, so I carry this brand or this brand just because people ask. I believe that's irresponsible. Our industry has been lying to us for a long time, not maybe intentionally, but they have. What you think you know isn't actually what is right, because we have not been told the truth. And that's unfair and it's unreasonable, but the reality is that we're the retailer, we're the ones dealing with the customers, and we have a responsibility to those customers to tell them the truth. And I want you guys, anybody who owns a homeware store or a kitchenware store, if you're listening to this, really reevaluate why you are selling disposable cookware to somebody. I think it's damaging to them individually. That's my personal choice, but definitely it's an environmentally a very, very bad choice as a business owner to be making. So I would be happy to talk to you about what it takes to transition away and how to build that sound business back and have happier, more engaged customers that really, really appreciate what you're doing. Because man, it feels good when I get the dozens of emails a week from all around the world now that encourage me to continue doing what I'm doing. It feels damn good as a retailer, I can tell you that. And so you've got so much to look forward to. So if you're a customer listening to this and you've got a local retailer that's still selling it, maybe somehow nicely give them that nudge. Be like, hey, I've heard this isn't really the greatest for the environment. Maybe there's other stuff that you could carry in your store, and show them maybe a video or two, or direct them to a certain product, and we might all together be able to make some sort of real change, right? Because the majors aren't going to do it for us, and there's no reason for us to continue buying non-stick cookware. It's not a thing. It's unnecessary. We can get the same or better results from lifelong cookware, and I truly, truly believe that. So thanks so much for listening to my long rant. I hope that it's helped you in any which way. I would love to hear from you. Please leave me a comment below and I'll help in any which way I can. So thanks so much. Take care.